I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. and call on Councillor Decker to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattawandurunk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Metis and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The City of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
Thank you, Councillor Decker. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes in the order of the agenda? Seeing none, I'll call on Councillor Kenny to move and Councillor DeRose to second the motion to adopt the agenda. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Adoption of the minutes. Councillor Sentence to move, Councillor Kenny to second the motion to adopt the minutes of the council meeting held on July 12, 2022. Is there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Mayor's remarks. On July 22nd, Councillor Sentence and I were joined by Mike Haynes, representing Jeff Birch and Economic Development Marino at EPP Track Equipment in Port Robinson to celebrate their 30 years in business. EPP Track Equipment designs and manufactures railroad track maintenance products, including the EPP 3000 tie changer, which is used to insert and extract railway ties, and the TMC 1000 track mobility cart used to mobilize hydraulic tools. These products are sold worldwide. On behalf of Council, congratulations to Paul and Elio Pirabon, not only on your anniversary, but on your business achievements and commitments to the City of Thorold. On July 22nd, Marco Marino and I attended the inaugural Mountain View Lemonade Day fundraising campaign reveal event at Mountain View Building Group offices in Thorold. The fundraiser took place on the weekend of June 11th and 12th, Sunday, June 12th being the big day, and saw municipalities from across the region come together to host lemonade stands in support of Family and Children's Services Niagara. In the City of Thorold, we had at least 10 registered stands. $85,134 was raised and will be used to send kids from all over Niagara to summer camp. Thank you to all the event sponsors, especially Mountain View Building Group and FACTS, as they look to grow this event moving forward. On July 22nd, Economic Development Manager Marco Marino and I stopped by the rectory at Our Lady of the Holy Rosary Church to present Associate Pastor Father Cassette with a certificate of appreciation for his 13 years of service to the parish and our community. Beginning August 3rd, he will be pastor at St. Anne's Church in Niagara Falls. On Sunday, July 24th, I attended the 100th birthday luncheon for Thorold residents Susie Zorzi, held at Hansberger Estate in Jordan. A large gathering of family and friends were on hand for this milestone birthday celebration, and I presented Susie with a certificate of recognition on behalf of City Council. Many will remember their family business, L Cycle and Sports, which later became Gym Cycle and today is now Front Row Sports. So there's a long history with that sporting goods lineage. On Sunday, July 24th, I stopped by Sullivan Park to watch our U11 Thorold Minor Baseball Rep A's advance to the finals of the U11 tournament, which they hosted. Unfortunately, they lost to Mount Forest Mavericks in the championship final, but played exceptional baseball during the tournament and represented the City of Thorold proudly. On July 20th, CAO Manoj Dauraria, Director of Public Works and Community Services Jeff Holman, and I met with NRP Staff Sergeant Dan Savoy and Constable Virginia Moyer. We discussed ATV off-road vehicle complaints across our parks, as well as other policing issues and concerns like speeding and other traffic offenses. We also continue to meet regularly with our Town and Gown Subcommittee meeting group, working with our community partners to prepare for the upcoming fall semester. On Tuesday, July 26, CAO Manoj Dalwaria and I attended the latest Canada Games Park sponsorship announcement. Canadian Tire Financial Services, the financial arm of Canadian Tire Corporation, is the naming sponsor of the Canada Games Park reception area and gymnasium, to be known as the Triangle Gymnasium and Reception Area at the Walker Sports and Ability Center. Just a reminder, Niagara 2022 Canada Summer Games begin on Saturday, August 6th and end on Sunday, August 21st. The City of Thorold's 13 for 13 Cultural Festival event will be held Tuesday, August 9th at the Battle of Beaver Dams Park from 5 to 9:30 p.m. That's next Tuesday. We are paired with the province of Manitoba and look forward to celebrate and experience the cultures of our city in Manitoba. This family event includes entertainment by Jade Turner as well as Jeremy and the Delicious Hounds, who are in from Winnipeg. Please visit our website and social media feeds for more information. On Wednesday, July 27th, Economic Development Manager Marco Marino, Councillor Sentence, and I were at the Thorold Multimodal Hub site to watch a TV series episode being filmed. Accused, co-produced by Fox Entertainment and Sony Pictures Television, were filming with a large on-site production crew. The Multimodal Hub is really diversifying into something special. On July 22nd, I presented Canal City Realty Limited Brokerage a certificate of recognition on their 40th anniversary, 40 years in business. Once again, on behalf of City Council, congratulations to Serge Carpino and his family on reaching this milestone and their commitment to the City of Thorold. On Thursday, July 28th, Marco Marino and I stopped by the CAA Niagara headquarters on Schmome Parkway to present President and CAO Peter Van Heswick and his staff with a certificate of recognition on behalf of City Council. They were recently named the 2022 Niagara Business of the Year by the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce. Once again, congratulations. The Knights of Columbus will be hosting their Harvest Fest on Saturday, September 10th and Sunday, September 11th at Holy Rosary Hall in Thorold. They are currently looking for vendors for this free 2-day event, which will see local artisans and farmers sell their products. This event will also include a food drive as well as a bottle drive for local charities. For more information or to book a booth, go to KOFC2319.org. That's KOFC2319.org. Community Care is in urgent need of approximately 500 new backpacks, sneakers, and school supplies for their Snacks and Sneakers program. This initiative gives children the ability to start school with all the necessary school supplies in order to succeed. Drop-off locations are Community Care 19 Albert Street in Thorold and Community Care 12 North Street in St. Catharines. The Thorold Community Credit Union is hosting its annual bike decorating contest on Friday, August 12th at the Credit Union on 63 Front Street. Judging takes place at 4:30 p.m. and the theme of this year's contest is Canadian Style. Make it fun and be creative. A community barbecue will also take place from 4 to 7 p.m. with the proceeds going to Community Care. Come out and support this great initiative and also enjoy the car show on Front Street from 5 to 8 p.m. The City of Thorold has launched a monthly e-newsletter designed for our community. It will be distributed on the last Thursday of each month. It will feature current news, City Council highlights, and ongoing events. To subscribe, visit our City of Thorold website, thorold.ca, and hit the subscribe button. Regional Chair Bradley and Niagara's 12 mayors put out a media release on Friday, July 12th, calling on the public to help support our local health system in advance of the civic holiday long weekend. mainly due to staffing shortages. The full media release can be found on the Niagara Region and City of Thorold Facebook and other social media feeds. And that's the end of my mayor's remarks. Presentations. I'd like to welcome Jean D'Amelio Swire, Chair of the Age Friendly Committee, and she's going to do a presentation on Thorold, a Community for All Ages, 2023 calendar presentation. Jean, welcome. Jean, you're muted. There you go. One sec. Jane, can you hear me? Yeah.
Jean, can you try to log out and log back in, please?
Oh, we can't hear Councilor Hanley either.
He's muted.
No, he just unmuted.
No, he's muted on mine. There he is. Now try. No, we can't hear him either.
Councillor Hanley, can you try again, please? See, you can hear him.
We're going to be a couple minutes while we look into this technical difficulty.
$1,000 can have up to 80% of debts, including credit.
Stay on the phone for you to hear me, right?
Yes, can you hear us now, Jean?
I can hear you.
Can everybody in the room and online hear? Okay, Jean.
Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, City Councilor, City Staff, my name is Jean Mel Swart, Chair of the Thorold Age Friendly Committee. The Thorold Age Friendly Committee is launching its 2023 Thorold Age Friendly calendar entitled A Community for All Ages. The calendar depicts the many facets of living in the Thorold community, highlighting active living for all ages. Thorold is comprised of both urban and rural hubs, all with a hometown friendliness. There are lots of historic buildings and locations like DQ House Heritage Park and First Nations Peace Monument. There are lots of recreational and leisure opportunities, whether it's walking in Mel Swart's Lake Gibson Conservation Park or Short Hill Provincial Park, or strolling or biking along the Welland Canal and watching the ships climb the mountain. Enjoying the recently completed Beaver Dams Park, skateboarding in Thorold South, or pickleball in South Confederation, as well as lots of organized sports throughout the city. Or take a bike ride and cross the Welland Canal on Bridget in Port Robinson. Lots of family fun at the Howell Family Pumpkin Farm. There's always lots happening in Thorold for the very young to the older adults at the library, the Thorold Activities Group, and the Ontario paper, Thorold Senior Centre. And we are proud to work actively with these partners. There are always lots of activities in Thorold, like Friday night vintage car show in historic downtown Thorold, or concerts in the bandshell at the Battle of Beavertown Park, and more. The Age-Friendly Committee wanted to produce this calendar this year, as the Canada Games will be commencing shortly, and the committee hopes to distribute the calendars to visitors who will be attending the Canada Games as a reminder of the time they spent at Thorold. Calendars will be available both to visitors and residents of Thorold at the Canada Games 13 for 13 Festival in the Battle of Beavertown Park on August 9th, at the Free Swim and Movie Night on August 27th, at the Lock 7 Tourist Information Centre, the Ontario Paper, Thorold Senior Centre, and the Thorold City Hall, the Thorold Library, and other venues during the year. This 2023 giveaway count has been made possible to the sponsorship donation from our community-minded sponsors, who each sponsored a month and are also listed on the back of the calendar. A big thanks to the Age-Friendly Committee for supporting this project, and especially Tony Vandermaas, Joanne and Miguel de Quatris, Rebecca Lazarenko in helping to produce the calendar, and to the many contributors of the photographs. The City of Thorold is recognized as a member of the World Health Organization Global Network for Age-Friendly Cities and Communities. 2 chat benches are now in the Battle of Beaver Downs Park, and we will be working with City Hall to have a dedication ceremony in the near future. A special thanks to Curtis Dre with his help on these chat benches. Committee members will also be handing out calendars at the 13 for 13 Festival on August 9th and on August 27th at the Free Swim and Movie Night at the Thorold Pool. And William Thomas, speaker and author, will be addressing the attendees at the Christmas luncheon on December 2nd. So we still have a few things in the works for the remainder of the year. The Thorold Age-Friendly Committee is also active in supporting and advancing the efforts and initiatives of Age-Friendly Niagara Council and the Niagara Older Adult Alliance, of which I am currently the chair. The Thorold Age-Friendly Committee has been active for 8 years through the support of this and the previous council, and with the unwavering support from Mayor Uccolini and our council representative, Fred Neal, who has played a vital part in the committee's successes. A special thanks to Joanne Goulet, our staff liaison, who has also been instrumental for our committee's successes. A reminder to older adults to stay physically, mentally, and socially active for a healthier aging process. Many organizations right now are in need of volunteers, and volunteering is a great way to stay active and give back to the community. Thank you for allowing me to address you this evening, and enjoy the rest of the summer.
Thank you, Jean, for an excellent presentation and for your leadership with the Age-Friendly Committee and all the volunteers. I'll open the floor up if there's any questions for Jean. Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Not so much a question, but a thank you. I know she stayed on this for a long time and got the sponsors, so great work into all the people that helped out. But I know you were frustrated at times and stuck with it, so thank you, Jean.
Thank you to everyone.
Councillor Neal, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And to Jeannie, I've worked with her since the very beginning. As a matter of fact, I think I helped put her in place, and she's done an excellent job over the last 8 years regarding the committee and all the things that we've accomplished over the years. And this is a coup de grace for you, Jean. It was hard work, but I think it was worth the effort. And next year, people will come back to thank you for putting the calendar out.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jean, thank you for the presentation and the calendars. I just want to say that they are wonderful calendars, and what an amazing job that you guys did. And thanks to all the sponsors that helped put it together, and to your committee. It's quite remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we do thank all the sponsors and everybody who helped out.
Is there anyone else?
Mayor Iolini, Councillor Handley has a question as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Hanlon. We can hear you.
I just wanted to congratulate you too on making the calendar and for all the efforts she's done with this committee over the last few years. And I believe it's very successful. You know, I'm going to be 61 myself, so I'm into that age group too. So age friendly as she's been doing, I just want to commend her on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley. Is anyone else? Okay, Gene, I want to thank you for coming tonight. I want to thank the Age Friendly Committee and your leadership. This committee, when it started out, has become a role model for all age-friendly committees across Niagara, and it's great to see the work they do, and under your leadership, they've accomplished a lot in a short period of time, and we thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to move on. The new mausoleum presentation has been withdrawn and will be brought to a future city council meeting. So we're going to move on to statement by councillors, and up first I have Councillor Longo. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Need to find the details. I'm going to have to go back to my email just 1 second. Mr. Mayor, I'm not going to read the motion because I can't find it right now. But
It's up here. It's up.
Oh, it's up there. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I'll read the motion and I'll make a quick comment.
Yeah.
That staff be directed to provide a report on municipal adopt-a-road programs being offered by Niagara Region and other local municipalities, including any budgetary considerations and recommended best practices for the implementation of a pilot program in the city of Thorold. Mr. Mayor, the reason I'm asking for this is I've been talking to a few different community groups, different areas in the city, and I'd like to be able to help beautify our city. Basically, I think the motion speaks for itself. I just want a report to come back so that we could have some sort of idea on implementing a program and have the community help us keep our neighborhoods, rural and urban areas beautiful and maintained.
Thank you, Councillor Longo. An excellent motion. Can I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Neal. Okay, anyone else want to speak to that? Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
I agree with the councillor's motion. I think we used to have a program many years ago, but even where Councillor Longo used to live on Sullivan Avenue, I believe one of our organizations adopted that particular road, and it's great to see it come back and be part of our beautification program.
Thank you. Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I agree. When I worked at the bank here in Thorold, we adopted Sullivan Avenue from Tuppert all the way down to Lock 7, and it was great, and we were really proud that we were able to do that twice a year. And unfortunately, no one's taken over that route. Once the bank closed, we lost our adopt-a-road for that street, but I think it's a great program, and it keeps Thorold looking good, and it gets people involved in doing something good for the city. So yeah, I support that. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. Councillor Hanley, go ahead.
Yes, also a great initiative. I was a member at one time of the Thorold Anglers and Hunters. We done a yearly cleanup out at the Divers Doom, the Butts, the Cuts areas like that. I know it's great. We'll have groups like the Lions Club, Club Capri, Knights of Columbus would be able to adopt roads. It's happened in many other municipalities. Where I'm actually situated right now on the street that I'm on, we have a clean roads or an adopted road program right here, and it does beautify the city, and it's not a big chore, like Councillor Decker said, a couple of times a year or quarterly, whatever it may be, but supported wholeheartedly, and beautifying the city is a great initiative.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley. Is there anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I agree 100%. I'll support this. And maybe if we could even look at maybe getting, like Councillor Decker said at the bank, maybe getting some teams or clubs or sports associations on board, and a little effort a couple of times a year to be a benefit to the city. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, Councillor DeRose, you're up next.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pass a motion that staff be directed to provide a report respecting the 2022 municipal and school board election, including the cost of online voting, fraud prevention, and percent of the voting public expected to participate online, and whether there will be a voting station in Port Robinson. I'm bringing this up because I'm getting calls from people and requests. A lot are concerned about the compromisation of computers these days. We see it every day, just like tonight's couldn't get people's voices and, you know, the Rogers thing. And so people are concerned. So they just want some answers. I think I brought this up previously, but I don't think anybody's gotten back to me.
Okay.
So that's the reasoning for it.
Did you want to comment on that? Or will you bring the report back? Okay, I need a seconder for that. Councillor Decker. Okay. The clerk will bring a report back. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Yeah, just that we went through this about 2 years ago now, and there are reports back then, and I would hope that those would be included in the report back.
Yeah, there is. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, delegations to report. Now we're on to report PDS 2022-32, respecting official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for 2 Confederation Avenue. Up first, have Lucy Pronk, intermediate planner, and Keith McKinnon, partner of KLM Planning Partners Incorporated. I'll call on Lucy and Keith for their delegation respecting PDS 2022-32 and remind them that they have 10 minutes to address council. Go ahead, Keith. Is Lucy on as well, or are you on by yourself?
I do believe Lucy is on,
she's
but
here.
I'm going to stick handle
her.
the presentation this evening, Your Worship.
Yep, she's here. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Your Worship, members of council, staff, and members of the public. I appreciate the opportunity to be before you this evening to speak to you on behalf of Starflower Properties, Inc., whom are the owners of Block 37, Registered Plan 59M184, which is also 2 Confederation Avenue, municipally known. We do have a presentation that we had provided as part of our package, and I know it was on the agenda. Oh, I see it on screen, so that's great. It's very short, so I'm just going to run through the presentation and then certainly be happy to answer your questions afterwards, Your Worship. So if I go to the next slide, please. So just as a quick refresher, the subject property that we're speaking to tonight, and of which our application was before council on the 21st of June with a recommendation report, is located at the northwest corner of Collier Road and Confederation Avenue. It's approximately 6.1 hectares in size and irregular in shape. Next slide, please. Yep, thank you. This is the development proposal that was provided and was part of the staff report back on the 21st of June. So just as, again, a quick refresher with the subject property, we have a mid-rise building right at the southeast corner of the property, or right at the corner of Collier and Confederation. We have a number of deck townhouse dwellings, which would be in the center of the plan itself, which would front onto some private amenity space. And then on the westerly portion of the land, we would have some on-street townhouses, which is consistent with the uses immediately to the west in the existing community. Then on the south side, in the southwest corner of the block, we have 4 future residential single detached dwellings, again, to be consistent with the street edge along Confederation as you move westerly from the site. So next slide, please. So as part of the plan, again, you would have probably recognized this slide from the previous staff report. One of the things that we've done subsequent to council deferring the decision on the application on the 21st of June, We went back and spoke to Ms. Sinclair from MHBC, the city's consulting planner that's looking after this file. And one of the things that we did, because a major concern that came out from council was the lack of commercial or perceived lack of commercial, and the concern that by developing this land with commercial uses and the residential, that it was still going to be an underserved area in terms of commercial. So one of the things we did as part of the discussions with Ms. Sinclair is for the mid-rise building that's going to have commercial uses on the ground floor, we've done two things. One of which is in the draft bylaw that's before council and the staff report, is we've required a minimum of 3,000 square meters of commercial floor area. So that's a minimum. So that would be the absolute minimum that would be required as part of the development of that building, and certainly could be increased if the demand and opportunity was there. And then the second item that we've done as well is we've increased the list of permitted uses. And certainly I know that Mr. Baza, that is, I believe, speaking after myself, whom I had the pleasure of speaking with this morning, on a number of different items, had also spoke to Ms. Sinclair about increasing the permitted uses, which we were very supportive of, and certainly appreciate Mr. Baza's input into that, and we're happy to incorporate that. So that's what we've done, is we've provided a minimum commercial square footage, and we've increased the list of permitted uses. So next slide, please. So again, these were some representative examples of the building typology at the corner of Confederation and Collier. Again, this was in our presentation slide as part of the public meeting. So again, not too dissimilar to what you've already seen before. And it's just really to give council an idea of what the building would look like. Of course, we would certainly be subject to site plan control in working with staff and the external agencies on what ultimately this building would look like at the time of applying for site plan application. But these were just to give council a really good idea to show that you'd have a real strong commercial presence on the ground floor with residential uses above. And next slide, please. Again, similar idea with different typology. And we'll move to the next slide, please. So here's, I think, what is really important and to sort of keep in context in relation to, well, what does 3,000 square meters of commercial floor area really get, this area of Thorold? So what we tried to do is use that concern and try and come up with some examples of different types of uses that could certainly fit within this building typology that we proposed. And what you see here is, so at the top you have an LCBO, which is also in the bottom two slides as well. With those are approximate footprints of 750 square meters to 1,000 square meters. So at a minimum of 3,000, we could certainly easily accommodate an LCBO in this location. For those that may not know, the bottom two slides is actually of Friday Harbor Resort. If you've heard of that here in Innisfil, that is a ground floor LCBO with residential uses above it. So that's a great example as to how that has worked, and certainly could work here in this situation as well. Next slide, please. We've also got some additional items. So the left side of the page, you'll see there's a grocery store. So it's a Rabbas, which those are can be a smaller grocery store that you do find in the GTA in the city of Toronto. Those footprints are typically 235 square meters, give or take. But certainly if you had an LCBO, let's say 1,000 square meters, you still have minimum of 2,000 square meters of floor space to deal with. So it could be an even larger grocery store if it was interested in locating that area. We have an example of a chain restaurant, which is typical of 1,000 square meters of floor area. And then a Shoppers Drug Mart is also at approximately about 1,100 square meters. So all these uses could certainly easily fit within that 3,000 square foot floor plate. Next slide, please. So one of the other things that we did, again, to sort of try and understand the concerns related to the commercial uses is to try and map out within the city where exactly are the commercial uses and what's their general size. So the ones that you see in blue, and maybe I'll actually ask you to skip to the next slide because there's a couple of easier ones to see, if you could, please. The ones that you see in blue, there's 4 of them there. Those are representative generally of the existing commercial sites within Thorold today that are at 3,000 square meters or slightly above in terms of floor area. The ones that are in black have a floor area that's less than 3,000 square meters. And of the 4 that are outlined in the blue that are within the Thorold geographic boundary, 2 of which are, one is the existing hotel across from the municipal office. Again, it is a commercial use, but obviously a different type of commercial use. And the other one is the Municipal Recreation Center on 70 Front Street North, which obviously has a commercial use to it, but not a general commercial use that you would typically see. So really, of the 4 that are identified, 2 of which are true commercial type uses that would have a similar ground floor area that we're proposing as part of a minimum, as part of this plan. The other thing that we wanted to highlight here as well is you see the Penn Center to the north is highlighted in blue. And it has, as the crow flies, a distance between the subject site and where the Penn Center is. So it's a 3-kilometer distance, again, as the crow flies, which is, a 5 to 8 minute drive. And that, with the amount of commercial floor space that's in the Penn Center, it does create issues in terms of where you'd be able to provide in terms of a larger geographic draw, in terms of commercial spaces that you can have, because obviously commercial uses don't really like competition or competition that's in very close proximity to each other, because they obviously want to have a monopoly on the population so that they obviously would be successful. So that was one of the issues that we've raised or had run into with respect to being able to develop this land for commercial uses in the past. And then the other issue that has come up, of course, and we did mention at the public meeting, is the access. So we certainly have met with the Ministry of Transportation many times to see if we can get an access off Collier Road, and they have been unequivocally stated that there is absolutely no way that we can get an access off Collier Road. So our only access for this land is from Confederation. So based on all that work, we certainly felt that providing a mix of commercial on the ground floor with residential above, with ground-related type uses of a product type that's not currently found in the city of Thorold today in a condominium tenure, so it's not municipally owned streets, it's all condominium. So it would be a condominium corporation that would be looking after all the snow plowing, garbage pickup, maintenance, noise complaints, all of that work that would all be undertaken typically by a municipality. In this particular instance would be undertaken by the condominium corporation that would be created as part of this development. So next slide, please. So with that, Your Worship, that's just our short presentation. We really just wanted to hone in on the commercial concerns that were raised by members of council on the 21st. Hope that maybe we've assuaged some concerns in terms of the size that's being proposed as a minimum for the site. And sorry, with that, Your Worship, members of council, we're happy to answer any questions that may arise from our presentation.
Lucy, do you have something to add, or you're here to answer questions?
Available to answer questions, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'll open the floor to questions for our presenters. To Lucy and Keith, any questions? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just a quick question. You had you had an LCBO store which is lacking in Thorold. Does your organization or company have any access to lobbying to get something like that, were this to proceed? Because Thorold definitely needs, not to promote drinking, but we definitely need the convenience of an LCBO store. And I think it would
so through you, Your Worship, to Councillor DeRose. So it's certainly not my company that would be the ability to do that, but Starflower Properties is one of the subsidiary companies of DG Group. And one of the subsidiary arms of DG Group is Metros Properties. And Metros Properties is a very large commercial developer that has developed, thousands, if not millions of square feet of commercial floor space across the GTA. So they have developed sites with many LCBO buildings and stores as part of their overall development processes in other areas. So I would certainly say that yes, they would have an ability to provide an LCBO if the LCBO felt there certainly was a market to warrant one for sure.
Thank you. Just one more question. You'll obviously be doing traffic studies because it's going to be pretty busy in that area for all these cars to be turning in to the property. And if it does become, and the commercial aspect of it, what is your strategy for that?
So through your worship to Councillor DeRose, so as part of our complete application submission that we provided way back when, staff did require us to prepare a traffic impact study, which was reviewed not only by City of Thorold staff, but also by Region of Niagara staff. And ultimately the conclusions were that the recommendations in the report itself were satisfactory, and so that has already been prepared as part of a complete application and reviewed by the agencies and the city staff.
Thank you, Keith.
Anyone else here? I see Councillor Hanley. Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Just at the end, I caught, is the entire development going to be a condominium consortium?
So through your worship to Councillor Hanley, so everything except for the 4 single detached dwellings that would front onto Confederation Avenue. Everything else is going to form part of the condominium corporation.
Okay, so all the units with raised decks and so on and so forth, the townhouses, they would all be part of it. Okay, that's good to hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley. Do I have any more questions? Anyone else before I go back to Councillor DeRose, because he's already spoken, but you'll get another chance. Okay, Councillor DeRose, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question. How many people do you expect to live in this premise? Just a rough idea. I know you can't verify for each household, but what's the approximation?
Through your worship to Councillor DeRose, excellent question. I don't honestly have that off the top of my head, and it is a bit difficult to provide you with an accurate answer, only because as it relates to the mid-rise building, the unit sizes that will be in there will be mixed. And when I say mixed, meaning mixed sizes. So there will be some smaller size units, meaning 1-bedroom type bachelor apartments, up to 2 to 3 bedroom apartments. So it'll vary between what those will be, and I just don't know ultimately what the mix of that is. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer I could give you right now, but if that's something that's critical, we could certainly go offline and try and get you an answer.
Yeah, if you could going forward, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Yeah, my question's just for you. Are we going to bring this report forward and deal with it?
Yes, after our speakers, with the reports coming on the floor.
So we're going to get a report from our planning department?
There will be, Jason's going to bring the report to the floor, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one else, I want to thank Lucy and Keith for your presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Up next, I have Nicholas Boza, a resident of the City of Thorold. And Nicholas, are you there?
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. And we can see you now.
Wonderful. Can I start?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Council. This evening I will be very brief. Based on my conversations earlier today with both Andrea St. Clair, the city contract planner on this file, and Keith McKinnon, planning for the applicant, who just presented a moment ago, I have one brief comment. As a side note, though, I'll have you know that both of my conversations today were very productive and gave me a really a much better understanding of the project as a whole. So it was very informative. So thank you to them both. I'm suggesting to council that they consider supporting only native trees and shrubs to be planted on this project. That is a species of native plants, trees, and shrubs that have evolved within the Niagara Peninsula over the years, that have developed gradually together, which have learned to support each other over their time together. So for example, take the native basswood tree versus the European linden tree. the European linden tree doesn't support proper pollination. So if we plant strictly native species, it would eliminate barriers for our local ecosystem moving forward for decades to come. Plus, Andrea St. Clair alerted me during our call today that this would also provide more drought tolerance and sustainability. I'm hoping myself and some of the people that I've consulted with before I came tonight, we're hoping that we could start a trend moving forward, not just with this development, but all developments in Thorold. This was an initiative shared with me just today by Carla Carlson, original founder of the Friends of the Richmond Street Forest. I believe it's a great idea and shows real meaningful promise. I'm sure that Carla would make herself open to any conversation that any council member or staff member would have regarding this new pathway. I think it's a realistic ask. I don't think that Mr. McKinnon or his client would oppose. And it would be great that if everyone, all the stakeholders here, would seriously consider this as a real attribute to this development and others moving forward. In conclusion, we have no issues with the project. All my questions were answered from our calls earlier today, and that concludes my comment.
Thank you, Nicholas. And I'm going to open the floor for any questions. Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Yes.
Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Would you like, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Nick, would you like to be part of a site plan approval agreement? Is that what you're looking for? So it would be implemented into a site plan approval?
Yeah, exactly. This is something I discussed with Andrea, and after I'm done answering questions, this is something that you can continue the conversation with Andrea, so she could give you her opinion on our conversation and what we just said on top of how I just answered. But yes, the short answer is love to see this at a site plan approval in that process.
Thank you. No more questions, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it.
Is there anyone else? Seeing none, Nicholas, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Good night.
I think he wants to stay on, that's the point. So we're going to bring the discussion report to the floor now, PDS 2022-32. Official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for 2 Confederation. I need a mover and a seconder, and then we'll put those. I got a mover, Councillor Sentence, and a seconder, Councillor Kenny. Now I'll ask Jason Simpson to put the discussion to read the report, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the recommendations of this report are: 1, that the official plan amendment to redesignate the subject property from urban living area and general commercial, exception B1.4.5.1, to urban living area with exception B1.1.13.1 be approved. Recommendation 2, that the revised zoning bylaw amendment to amend zoning bylaw 60-2019 to rezone the property in part from future development to neighborhood commercial, or end neighborhood commercial, my apologies, to mixed use commercial and open space zone be approved. 3, that the zoning bylaw amendment to amend zoning bylaw 214097 to rezone the property in part from future development and neighborhood commercial to residential first density zone, residential third density, and residential third density with site-specific regulations be approved. 4, that the zoning bylaw amendment to amend zoning bylaw 60-2019 to rezone the property in part from future development and C4 neighborhood commercial to private street development R3D-80 zone and private street development R3D-81 zone be passed at the same time as the residential amendment to the 214097 bylaw. And finally, recommendation 5, that these applications be exempted from the 2-year moratorium for minor variances. And that concludes the recommendations of this report.
Thank you. And now I'm going to open the floor for questions to Jason. Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
I didn't see in anybody's report, what's the situation with the parking with all these homes? Or is there going to be enough parking at all the places according to our bylaws?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Kenny, and I will add for council's benefit, we do have Andrea Sinclair with us before or today as well from MHBC, who's representing the City of Thorold's Planning Division. So she may be able to provide further insight, but yes, there is ample parking on this site to accommodate all the proposed development.
So that will not be part of the minor variance that they might come back and ask about. It could be?
No, minor variance would not be necessary for parking.
Okay. I think Keith and Lucy and his group have listened to a lot of our issues, and just a statement, I think they did a good job with this development. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Councillor. Anyone else have any questions or concerns that they want to address? Go ahead, Councillor Sens.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Jason. So you were comfortable with the traffic study. My only concern, I think they did they listened, worked with us, and came up with something as well. But the Confederation Avenue one entrance, are you concerned about that at all? Or are we concerned about the traffic coming through there with all these homes?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would like to defer that question if I could.
Andrea, are you there? Go ahead, Andrea.
Good evening. I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
I'll just, before I answer the traffic question, just on the parking matter, I did want to just confirm that right now, as you know, Thorold's sort of between two bylaws, and we've gone with the stricter of the two in terms of the parking. So there will be a minimum requirement for 2 spaces for every unit. And of course, any future variance would have to be reviewed by staff, and we don't anticipate that the applicant will come back with any reduction of parking. And on the traffic, as mentioned by Mr. McKinnon, that report has been reviewed by the region and the city, and there's actually 2 accesses out to Confederation. So there's one that's a right in, right out, and there will be also a full turn access, and the region's expected to be doing a number of upgrades along Collier in this sort of short-term future that will assist with any of those traffic concerns as well. So we're satisfied that the traffic study that's been done is that it supports the proposed development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good?
Yep.
Okay, Councillor Long, you had your hand up? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple questions regarding the entire site, so to the proper staff member. This is going to be a condominium complex from what I understand, is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct, with the exception of the, I believe it's 4 detached houses fronting onto Confederation. But with the exception of that, then yes, the rest is all in condo corporation.
Okay, so will, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the appropriate staff member, will the city have any obligation for parking control, snow removal, or garbage pickup in this complex?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Longo, no, the City of Thorold will not have any obligations for those matters within this complex.
Okay, great. And I just have a question. It seems to me that there's been some changes to the commercial aspect of this. How has that changed from the last time the applicant's been here? What's been changed in terms of, I guess, the increase in square meters of commercial space?
Do you want to answer that, Jason, or Andrea?
Yeah, I'll refer that question to Andrea Sinclair.
Okay, Andrea, go ahead.
Thank you. So the changes to the bylaw since the June meeting has been the addition of some more commercial uses in the hopes to really make sure that this commercial component of the project will be successful. So we've expanded the uses to include some of those that are typically included in sort of a general commercial or a neighborhood commercial zone, and then adding a minimum requirement for commercial. So the previous zoning bylaw talked about the ability to have residential units above ground floor commercial, but didn't require any set amount. With the new changes to the bylaw, there is that minimum requirement, which is again just a minimum. So it's they can certainly exceed that, but there is now a bylaw requirement to have at least the 3,000 square meters, which is roughly 32,000 square feet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up on that, so was there any measurable amount presented to us last time, or was it the same amount?
Through you, Councillor Longo, I don't believe that there was a set amount last time. There was just a general discussion about having commercial on the ground floor, but without a real commitment on what that area would be. So there could have been, for example, lobby space for the residential or bike storage, things like that, that wouldn't have necessarily been commercial. So now it's a set amount in the bylaw.
Okay, great. And I guess just my final question, I think I know the answer, but I'll ask. In terms of this condominium complex, condominium corporation, they will make rules regarding the way, I guess, people work and live in the area? They will have set standards?
Yes, through condo, there's quite a bit of control that can be exercised, and the condo approval is not before council today. We wanted to make sure we could go through the site plan process and really make sure that there's everything that we want included in those condo declarations and condo conditions has been looked at thoroughly. But yes, you have significantly more control of the condo than you would if this was, for example, a rental project or even freehold.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to ask one more time. This is guaranteed to be a condominium corporation?
A condo application has been submitted by the applicant, and because of the private roads, it does have to proceed by condo because they're not to a city standard. So it will be a condo application, and it has already been submitted as a condo application.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else? Councillor DeRose, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. To whoever can answer this, are we going to be asked, or are we going to be taking out the boulevard there? Because it seems to me that if you only can turn in from one direction, that's going to be, you're going to see people trying to do U-turns on Collier Road, and that could be a headache safety-wise. I'm on the Road Safety Committee. I'm sure that would be a concern for us on that committee. So is there a proposal to take out
part or all of that?
Part of the
Sean,
boulevard,
we have
yeah.
Sean here from Manager Engineering. I'm sure he can help us with that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe we're taking any of that boulevard or center median out on Confederation. The right in, right out entrance is the first entrance off of Collier Road, and they'll be able to access into the subdivision, but only, or into the development area, but only exit heading towards Cracker Jacks. And then the second entrance is the full movement entrance, which is at that all-way stop currently at Cracker Jacks, and it'll allow people in and out from that location. We don't anticipate a lot of U-turning in the area because it's really just an extra access for that.
Okay, and Sean, if this does get to be a bad area, or you guys will react to it and possibly remove the boulevard, just so they can get in and out, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, we would prefer not to have
Right, yeah.
the full movement at that location to the east, only because it's too close to the intersection of Collier and.
Yeah, I just think it could lead to a safety issue, but thanks, okay.
And I know that the region is got, in its 5-year plan, which they presented to us over a year ago, is the total redoing Collier Road from the highway exit to Beaver Dams Road. Am I correct, Sean, on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Okay. So that is in the works as well, Councillor. Is there anyone else? Councillor Hanley, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you to Andrea Sinclair. Andrea, do we need to pass a motion to put in the into the site plan agreement using native species trees, or can that be a part of the agreement without going through council? Or do we need to change anything in regards to our bylaw?
Mr. Hanley, Councillor Hanley, so the site plan agreement will, when we're at that stage, will come to council as per typical. I know that Thorold does have a list of preferred species, which are all native, and will of course be reviewing the site plan application when it comes in. So I've heard the comment, and I think it's very easily can be incorporated when we're at that site plan process, but I'm not sure that we can, on the zoning and official plan amendment, carry forward something that relates to the future site plan process. But that's definitely something that could be incorporated into the site plan agreement at that time.
So Councillor,
Thank you very much.
when that comes forward, if it's not incorporated, then we can address it. Okay?
Yep, yeah, understandable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, I had a mover, Councillor Sentence, and a seconder, Councillor Kenny, on PDS 2022-32, official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for 2 Confederation. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, so we have consent reports. I got a mover, Councillor Longo, and a seconder, Councillor Sentence, to move consent reports 14.1 through 14.19. Now I'll ask councillors which ones they would like to pull, because I'm sure we're going to have discussion on some of these. Councillor Hanley, you're first. Go ahead on what one you want. Or what one or ones. I can't hear you.
82, PWCS 2022-82 and PWCS 2022-88.
So 82 and 88, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else other than them two? Councillor Neal.
PWCS 2022-87.
87. No, it can't be. Is there an 87?
The last one.
Oh, there we are. Sorry.
It was added in yesterday.
Anyone else? Okay, so we're going to, I had a mover, Councillor Longo, and a seconder, Councillor Sentence, and we're going to do 14.1 through 14.19 with the exception of 14.10, 14.15, and 14.18. Okay? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So we'll go in order, and we'll start with 1410 PWCS 2022-82, Fire Station 1 Construction Tender Award. And who's going to put that on the floor? Are you, Sean? Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's recommended that Council of the City of Thorold award the request for tender number 602 FR 2016 regarding Fire Station 1 construction, RFT number 602 FR 16 T1 to Manacor Construction Inc. for a contract price of $1,028,700 even, including contingency plus HST, and that Council of the City of Thorold approve the engagement of Valley to complete the contract administration at an upset limit of $437,319 plus HST, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreements necessary for the contracts.
Thank you,
So
Sean.
concludes the report.
Thank you, Sean, and we'll now open the floor up for questions to Sean or any staff member. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have one quick question, and I'll make a comment. It says in here it's a 24-month duration for the construction. Do we have any idea when this would start if we passed it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, our intent is to have them digging in earnest early September.
Great, thank you. I'd just like to make a comment, Mr. Mayor. I was very, very satisfied to see this come in actually under budget. I just want to thank staff for their hard work. I would like to thank the pricing consultant we used, who did a great job, obviously, because it came in where we expected it to be. And I'm really happy that we've engaged Manacor to do it. I believe they did the arena for us in the past.
They did, that's correct.
They did a fantastic job, and I trust they'll do a great job here for us on this community asset that everybody can benefit from. So thank you to staff.
Thank you, Councillor Longo. Councillor Hanley, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, I didn't catch what Councillor Longo said, but right to the very end, but I see that he supported it. I will support it too. I just want to ask you, Mr. Mayor, contingency. Is a contingency amount in case we go over the $11 million, or that's including? Are we saying that this project may be $8 million, but we're going to go to the $11 million in case it goes over? Can we expect, because it's happened time and time again during this term of council where we've budgeted a cost and then we come back and I'm afraid you might come back and ask for $4 or $5 million. And if you do, where are we going to get the money from?
Okay.
Or how's this working?
I don't know
because
if
our
Sean,
last couple of projects have not been to budget.
Sean,
Major projects.
Thank you. Sean or Maria, I don't know who wants to take this one on.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there is a contingency included in the construction. That contingency is about 10% of the project, so probably about $1 million. I would have to check exactly how much it was. But the intent of that is some of the small changes that have to happen, we would include in the contingency and pay for, and hopefully we won't have to come back for any more money.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Hanley?
One more minute. Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
When do we plan on starting this project? Because an $11 million job, I'm wanting to know when we're going to start it, because I've been keeping track of construction costs over the last 26 months and seeing how they're climbing. And if this project's going to happen a year down the road or 6 years down the road, that 10% may not cover the way costing's going right now.
Councillor Hanley.
On a norm, especially at 8% inflation.
So, Councillor Hanley, that question where you didn't hear the last part, you said where Councillor Longo asked that, he said that their goal would be to break ground in early September.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I didn't hear that, so that would be great. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. No other questions at this time.
Okay, Councillor Sentence.
I support the project.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, congratulations, Chief. Congratulations to the city, and great job by staff. I was really afraid of what numbers were going to come back after some other things that we've done over the last little while, but fantastic job, staff, and fully support this. Very excited. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sentence. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to concur with what Councillor Longo said and Councillor Sentence just reiterated. Excellent work. Happy this is going forward. It's much needed. Just, can I get an explanation of number 2? I know there's contract administration. So about $500,000. Is this, I'm not familiar with what it is. So can you explain it, and just, is it beyond staff's capabilities to handle something of this project? Is it too big of a project to have staff kind of try to micromanage it? Or if you could explain it, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The difficulty with us trying to manage it in-house is that we don't know the details of the design like the design team does. The intent of having them out there is to make sure that they watch every detail, every screw that goes into the wall, to make sure that it is controlled, and we're very, very concerned, or make sure that we get exactly what we said we were going to, or wanted to get out of the deal.
So, Sean, who is Valley? Is that a company that does this for a living, obviously?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, they're the architects that designed the building in the first place.
Okay, and does that include their architect fees, or is this beyond that?
This is beyond their architect fees.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I seen Councillor, go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been a long time coming. And maybe I could probably say I waited till this happened and then I'm retiring. but that's not the only reason why I'm retiring. But now that we put it through, and Terry will have a nice new building, and that I'm pleased to be part of putting this together and seeing it 2 years from now. If you'll invite me to the opening, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. Is there anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Yeah, after hearing everybody speak, it sounds like this is going to pass, which is great, and I think it's a great opportunity for the city. I'd like to add one thing. I'd like to put a motion on the floor that the city of Thorold will get the land appraised for the old fire hall and offer it to Thorold nonprofit housing at a fair market value down the road to build seniors units on the present, that's not part of the motion, but.
No, but I think that as part of the costs of that was part of the, I'll let Maria explain it because I want to make sure it's explained correctly.
Funding of this project. So included in the numbers, there's a minimum of $500,000 for the sale of the Station 1.
Yeah, that was my motion, that the city of Thorold will get the land appraised and offer it to Thorold nonprofit at the fair market value of the land. I'm not asking to give it to them. And my motion says that we get it appraised and we offer it to them. I think it's a great place for seniors housing downtown in Thorold. And we own the land. It's not like when we were taking over school board property, we have to offer it out. It's our land. And I'm not asking for any favors for the group. I know I'm on the board there. But if we get a fair market from our appraiser and offer it to them first.
Well, I've been instructed that the way we should do this is we should pass the report on the construction, and that's a separate motion to deal with separately, okay?
Are we going to deal with it right now after we pass the report?
We can put it on the floor after this. This is a separate, to deal with the construction of the fire hall, separate item, right? Am I correct?
Okay, as long as I can put it on the floor right after and not say that's not on the agenda, that's all. Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say congratulations as well, and congratulate our council that this is finally coming to fruition, and we're going to finally see a new fire hall here in Thorold, so kudos to everyone. Cheers.
Okay, before I call the vote, I want to say the same thing. I want to thank everyone involved, staff, and you can tell with such a competitive bid as it was, and the number of people that bid this project, it was good to see, and that shows that everything was done, you know, all the numbers, like Councillor Longo said, that were presented to us were very accurate, and it's good to see the numbers come in slightly below that, so I want to thank everyone as well. Okay, so that... Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you. Just want to say nothing against Councillor Kenny's motion, but don't we have a procedural thing in regards to it? We would not have to vote on it, seeing that we can't just bring a motion to the floor how we feel we wish to do it. There's a procedure that we have to follow in order to do that. Am I correct?
I would agree with you. I think it should come under a notice of motion myself, but that's my opinion. Right?
Not that I disagree,
but I'll leave that with the clerk.
Thank you very much.
I'll leave that with the clerk to. Okay, so we have.
Oh, excuse me. What's the clerk saying? Because I was told one thing. Am I going to be told something else after?
I'll let our clerk speak to that. The motion on disposition of that property, I think, my own opinion, should be a notice of motion and should come at a next meeting. It's because we're dealing with a tender award for the fire hall here.
I understand that, but it's part of the procedure. We should be able to, I should be able to put this motion forward, dealing with the land.
I'm leaving it with the clerks.
But I hate to disagree, but I disagree because if that's the case, then I'll come here every council meeting and put motions on the floor every night without bringing notice of the motion forward.
Okay, Councillor, you don't have the floor right now.
through the mayor to the councillor, looking at the report and the recommendations that are coming forward, although it is related to the topic, I would agree that it is not the matter that is currently on the floor. Therefore, it would not be in order to put forward that motion at this time without a notice of motion or waiving the procedural bylaw as was mentioned.
Okay. I beg to differ with you for the simple point that the motion couldn't come forward until we actually voted on the land. Voted on the new fire hall. One has to follow the other.
That's why a notice of motion is in order, and you can bring it at the next meeting, Councillor. That's to me, that's the proper procedure.
Well, can I ask that we waive the procedural bylaw tonight?
Well, you can after we vote on this, and then council will decide that, or they'll decide whether they want it to come as a notice of motion next meeting. Okay, so PWCS 2022-82, and again, I had a... No, we haven't. No, I had a mover, Councillor Senton, seconder, Councillor Kenny. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. You want to deal with that now?
Sorry, through the mayor. So if the councillor wishes to put the motion forward, pursuant to procedural bylaw, you would need to suspend the rules to waive the notice of motion to allow you to deal with the matter tonight, as opposed to keeping it as a notice of motion to receive the motion at the next meeting. So the councillor would need to move that. It would require a seconder and then a 2/3 majority to allow us to deal with the matter tonight.
And would we do that now or when we hit?
No, you would do that at notice of motion in the meeting.
Okay. So that's when we'll deal with it. And then council will decide if they want to waive the procedure. Okay?
Thank you.
1415, PWCS 2022-88, Battle of Beaver Dams Park commemorative benches. I think it was Councillor Hanley. Did you pull this one?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I did. Just a quick question through you to staff. I know now that we're adding more commemorative benches. I have an individual from the city of Thorold whose wife passed away and frequented the park quite frequently. She lived in the Garden Street area and she sat, there was no bench there, but she actually sat in the lawn and that stuff and enjoyed the park. I wanted to know, with these benches, can someone designate or request a specific spot, or would the city be the ones to choose where the bench goes?
I would.
Can someone say, and I'm not asking for it to be in an out of an ordinary place, but
no, I understand. I'll ask. Sean, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. As part of the design of the Beaver Dams Park, we've identified locations, so it's not open to be putting a bench anywhere they want, but they can choose any one of the benches that we already have.
Okay, so there's going to be locations that are specified. They can choose one of those locations, Councillor Hanley?
Okay, thank you very much. Just to follow up to that then, in regards to who would the individual solicit or contact in regards to such, knowing that this motion's coming forth tonight, they're anticipating tomorrow or the next day to contact staff.
So what my guess and my understanding in talking to our CAO before the meeting, if this is passed tonight, then there's going to be a release put out with all the details and through our communications, and we'll get all that information out as well as supply it to all the councillors in case you get asked as well, Councillor Hanley.
Okay, thank you. Very appreciated.
Okay. Anyone else regarding that issue? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think the same person reached out to me that reached out to Councillor Hanley. And I think the question was that his wife who passed was sitting in a spot where there was a bench already. So are they, Sean, are they putting the benches, some of them back in the same spot? So I think that would alleviate this person's concern.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, some of the benches are certainly going back where they used to be. Some of them not so much. We've done some significant changes to the grading in the park, and some of those spots might not be very good for putting a bench at this point in time and sitting. But what we'll do is we'll work with that person and try to get them in the best spot possible.
Okay, that's awesome. And then it's funny because I've been getting calls and texts, and I just got one about 10 minutes ago asking me about this. And some people have said they've tried to reach out to City Hall, but no one's answering them in regard to this.
Yeah, so part of this will be to make sure it's communicated properly.
So who should we let them know to communicate with? Just so they don't get to run around and get, different extensions and never get anything accomplished.
Through Mr. Mayor, Councilor Rose, we will put everything in the media release so that explains what they are paying for, including the price, and that is for the benches and also for the maintenance, and then which extension and the individual they should call and contact. So everything will be there in the media release so that...
Can you tell us tonight who the person they to contact is, or no?
Well, we'll send that
We'll
to you.
provide
Well,
that.
that'll go to council as well. Before it's released, it usually gets sent to council anyway, so you'll
Okay.
have that information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Anyone else? Seeing none, I got a mover again, Councillor Sentence, and a seconder, Councillor Kenny, on PWCS 2022-88, Battle of Beaver Dams Park commemorative benches. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And the last one that we have to deal with is PWCS 2022-87, Mel Swart Park project status update. And Councillor Neal, you pulled this one, so I'll open the floor to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. When I looked at this on Friday, I almost had a heart attack. This is not right to bring forward 4 different projects in one single report. So my first thing I would like to see happen is 3 of these reports be brought back at the next council meeting to be dealt with, because what they have in here, very sparse, no real details on any of them. And I would like to make sure that the details are there before we make a decision on any of the 3 that I want to see go back. And that would be Lake Gibson Corridor Conservation Zone, the Dark Sky Park designation, and the Osprey Nest boxes be brought back at the next council meeting.
You want to refer that back to staff to be brought back at the next council meeting?
That's correct.
Do I have a seconder for that? I got Councillor Longo. Okay, so it's a referral motion. We're not going to debate those 3 parts. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, so there's one outstanding part, and you can address that one now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The Healing Garden issue, I think it should happen. I'm very surprised that they want to send it off to next year's. I can understand maybe putting it in a budget process, but I really can't understand why the staff have decided that they want to put this off to next year when they know right well that in our presentation from the Indigenous Committee that we wanted to see this happen this year and not next year. And so I think it should happen this year. The design and the shape of the medicine wheel, this garden will be a place for people from all 4 quadrants to sit down and reflect. The garden will be a place for people to reflect, renew, celebrate, learn, and discover, and I can go on and on and on what this means to the city of Thorold. Staff have not seemed to grasp the significance of this by having a healing garden as part of Thorold's contribution to the Truth and Reconciliation. The garden will be part of the Canada-wide initiative. People will come from far and wide to visit our community and the garden. The Pope, head of the Roman Catholic Church, was in Canada to offer reconciliation with Indigenous people. And actually, I was in Quebec City the day after, and I tried to get a hold of the Pope, but he had left. Also, the Archbishop of Canterbury, head of the Worldwide Anglican Church, was here from England to reconcile with Indigenous people back in May. The Healing Garden will help deal with the systematic racism that has developed across our country. The city has a policy and procedure manual so that Indigenous Committee can raise funds from corporate, private, and government donations. Therefore, setting up an account to look after the donations should be achievable. I have already discussed this with a couple of corporate organizations who are willing also to donate to this project. The city does not need to invent the wheel. The Mel Swart Park Committee was set up with the same criteria and raised $150,000 plus thousands in kind donations towards creating what you see there today in the Mel Swart Park. The amount of $65,000 to $75,000 is an upward limit of the cost. $17,750 is already being donated by Dean McClellan Stonework, who will create the garden, so take that off of that particular figure. 2 members of the committee will accommodate the workers, which will lower the cost by another $2,400. Topsoil and plants will be provided by donations, so will not be at a city cost, which Curtis Dre put in. The cost of $3,500 per bench included in the cost can be offset by donations, as Councilor DeRose mentioned earlier. He has a person who will donate to a bench in the downtown park. I presume the $3,500 cost is the retail value for the general public and could be purchased by the city maybe at a lower cost. Also, the cost of putting in water, which is part of this particular cost, should have been done by the city a while ago and can be utilized elsewhere in the park. Therefore, it should not be part of the cost of this particular endeavor. The same for the cost of garbage bins. He's got an amount in there for garbage bins. The park is well used, and the increase in number of people should not increase the number of garbage bins, which is included in the cost. The cost of maintaining the garden will be done by volunteers, by the community of both Indigenous people and the general public. Curtis estimates the cost for staff to look after the maintenance should not be included, as it would be minimum. The committee met this morning and has no idea why this project needs to wait for a new council to deal with it. We have the people in place to complete the project over the next month and a half. We might be able to have this project finished and dedicated on Truth and Reconciliation Day at the end of September. So therefore, Mr. Mayor, I move, and second by Councilor's sentence, that the City of Thorold move forward with the Healing Garden project at an upset limit of $75,000 to be paid out of either the Reserve for Development Charges, Parks and Recreation, or the Reserve for Encumbrances, or the Indigenous fundraising account, which will be set up.
You had a seconder, and
I had a seconder by Councilor Sentence.
Thank you, and I'll open the floor for discussion. Go ahead, Councilor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree 100% with Councilor Neal. I talked to a couple people today that are on the committee, and it shouldn't cost this much. They were surprised by the numbers, and even if it did, I think this is a worthwhile venture for the city of Thorold. So I'll support this 100%.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Decker.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I agree. I spoke also with some of the committee members, and they had quite a few people that were going to volunteer their time and supplies to get this done. And I think I totally agree with Councilor Neal that it would be great to have this done and dedicated at Truth and Reconciliation. So I support it 100% as well. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Neal brought up some valid points, and I will support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councilor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All valid points, but I always come back to budgets, and we have budgets for a reason. There's a lot of, opinions here that the money will be raised through various means, and I'm not quite sure if that can happen, and then if we can't, where does the money come from? So unless I can get some assurances, I guess, from the Director of Finance where we can find money to do this, again, I support the project. I'm just not sure if it needs to move this fast.
Thank you. Go ahead, Maria.
Mr. Mayor, certainly, there were sources you know, council does have the option to tap into the reserves for these types of things. Again, if you use it for one project, the funds aren't there for another project. So it is basically a matter of prioritization by council of which projects they wish to advance sort of during the year. The encumbrance reserve was mentioned. Funds are there, could be used, less any fundraising that does come in, but again, it's a matter of prioritization.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll just comment on that. It's prioritization, I guess. So is it that important that it's done in this calendar year? We're coming up to the end of the year, and we have a new council coming and a new budget next year. I support the project. I supported it when it originally came on board. I just don't know if I support fast tracking it, taking money from reserves, which we're warned about not doing, and we're warned about that are dwindling. So I'm going to vote against fast tracking it, but I'll support it in the future if I'm still around.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, just to follow up on what the councillor just mentioned, I guess time is when this thing should happen, and now is the time that it should happen, not next year or the year after. This is when it is in focus. This is when the Indigenous people are looking for ways of healing, the ways of moving forward, and Canada moving forward. This is a national, international story, and Thorold should be part of it. And we brought forward from the Indigenous Committee a proposal of a healing garden, which is a unique part of what they're all about. And I would hope that, and I understand budgets. I understand budgets very well in my profession, and the focus is that we may not raise all the funds. I'm not saying we will raise all the funds to offset the $75,000 that we're talking about here today, but there will be some funding. Yeah, I already took off. It's not $75,000. I don't know whether you were adding it up, Council, but it's not $75,000 that would be the bottom line on this. It'll be probably around $50,000 or less. That will be the actual amount.
So, Councillor, it says an upset limit of 75, but I think it should include that all fundraising goes back in the reserves. Is that the way we should word it?
That's
okay,
correct, Mr. Mayor. We have that up there already.
Okay, it's included there. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Again, we had a mover, Councillor Sentence, and a seconder, Councillor Kenny. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. That was a mover, Councillor Neal, and a and a seconder. You're correct, and a seconder, Councillor Sentence. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Discussion reports. PDS 2022-34. Ontario Land Tribunal Appeals Representation Report, PDS 2022-34. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Mover, Councillor Sentence, seconder, Councillor Decker. And I'll turn it over to Jason Simpson.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. This information report, PDS 2022-34, is to inform Council that the City has been notified an appeal has been submitted to the Ontario Land Tribunal pertaining to 3 applications that came before the Committee of Adjustment, 1 consent application, and 2 minor variance applications. So all 3 decisions were turned down by the Committee of Adjustment, and subsequently appeals were submitted to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And tonight we're informing Council of such and requesting that council make a decision as to whether or not they wish to seek legal representation to represent council or the committee before the OLT.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Yes, I would support that. These are the three cases that were heard last Thursday, Jason?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Kenny. These were heard.
Would it be West Street?
They were for 53 Wellington Street North.
Oh, all three from the same one?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. That was at that one too. Okay.
Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Through you to Jason. Do we need legal support for this, or just like how did this play out? Did we okay this as well from our side? So we would need legal?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Sentence, the staff report did support the consent and two minor variance requests, and therefore council would be seeking legal representation before the OLT. And to come back to Councillor Kenny's question about when this came forward to the committee, it looks like that was on June 16th of this year.
Okay, thank you. I will. I'll support Senate representation. I think we've done that every time, and backing up our committee of adjustments. Thank you.
Councillor Longo, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the appropriate staff member. Do we ask legal first for their opinion on this? So we certainly wouldn't want to send legal there if they didn't think the chance of success was there. So how do we move forward? Maybe the CAO can answer this.
CAO or Jason, either one, go ahead.
Through Mr. Mayor, I agree with you, Mr. Councillor. What we will do is we will provide this case to our legal counsel, external legal counsel, and ask them what are our chances. And if they advise us that it is good for us to move forward, and then we have a strong chance of moving forward with the direction in which Committee of Adjustment wants to go, and then the legal counsel will advise council at that time to proceed ahead or not. We'll seek their opinion first, and they will decide. We'll let them decide on a planner that will support their case. That's how we have done in the past. Thank you.
Great. I'll support that, Mr. Mayor, because I have strong feelings on this, but I don't want to. I'm not a lawyer, so I'd like to know if I'm fighting the right fight.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Yeah, just as Councillor Longo just mentioned, I have strong opinions on this because I've already made my strong opinion on 16 Ormond Street, and this is another situation similar, trying to fit something on a lot that they really shouldn't be fitting it on, at least in the way it is at the present moment. So I would like to hear from the legal representative what their thoughts are on moving forward with this before making a decision, but I think the decision is to move forward.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I had a mover, Councillor Sentence, and a second, Councillor Decker, and so we need to say what we're doing.
So the motion currently on the floor is just to receive the report. If you'd like to do that, and then if somebody wishes, they can put forward a motion to obtain legal to represent them.
Okay, so first of all, we're going to receive the report, and then the motion after that. Okay, so we had a mover, Councillor Sentence, seconder, Councillor Decker, to receive the report. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Second one is the motion, and go ahead.
Just put the draft motion on the floor.
And you're going to move it, Councillor? Sure. Councillor Longo, and the seconder, Councillor Sentence.
Again, I'm not exactly sure that's what we're looking for.
No. No, that's not.
Sorry, that's not the correct.
That's not the right one. Anyway.
We already did that.
just legal at this time.
Not even professional planning.
No, just,
It should say.
Yeah, it'll just be,
Professional planning opinion, legal representation and official planning opinion, or legal opinion and professional planning.
Through Mr. Mayor, Councillor Longo, I think if we leave it just legal opinion, they will consult with the planner before providing legal opinion anyway.
and then they'll report back to us, and then we'll decide how we move forward. Am I correct? That's what you're looking for, right, Councillor Longo?
Yes. The rest of council.
Yes. Okay, that's what we have there. I had a mover, Councillor Longo, and a seconder, Councillor Sentence. Go ahead, Councillor. I want to make sure that
Sorry,
we're happy with the
Mr. Mayor,
language.
If that can just come up one more time. So to the clerk, if he could just take out the word representation and put opinion. Perfect, perfect.
That good? Everyone happy with that? Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Just, can we add the word support, the Committee of Adjustment? Because I've had calls from the people on that committee, and they are looking for our support when they make a decision to turn something down. So I'm just asking if we could add the word support between the and the committee. Support the Committee of Adjustment's decision respecting. Because we are supporting
Is that a
Through the
friendly
mayor,
amendment
just-
to Councillor Longo and Councillor Sentence?
through the mayor, just to clarify, that would be specific to this decision.
Correct.
I need the mover and seconder to say that that's friendly.
You know, I support the work the Committee of Adjustment does, but I don't want to get specific. I don't know if I support their opinion on this because I'm not a lawyer. I'm just asking for a lawyer to tell us whether we should support them in the defense of it.
So that the city clerk be directed to retain legal opinion, respecting the Committee of Adjustment decision on June 16th. Am I
And I respect what Councillor Kenny's saying, but I think that kind of clouds it.
I understand what you're saying, so you don't want that, and you're okay with that, Councillor? I'm talking to Councillor Kenny now, because respecting the decision's in there, it's just in there in a different way.
If you're asking me, I'm not happy with it, but I'll deal, it's fine.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so we've got it on there now, and can you put it up one more time before we vote on it? Okay. Is everybody good with that? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, now we're going to move on to PWCS 2022-76, Thompson Avenue Sidewalk Extension. I need a mover and a report for that. I got a mover, Councillor Deckard, and I have a seconder, Councillor Sentence. And I'll ask our Manager of Engineering, Sean Dunsmore, to put that on the floor, please.
It's recommended that council approve the location of the Thompson Avenue sidewalk from McMahon to Stewart Avenue on the south side of the road, and that an all-way stop conditions be installed at the intersection of Westmount Avenue and Thompson Avenue, and that the traffic and parking bylaw 150, 2012 be amended to recognize the installation of the stop sign at the intersection of Westmount and Thompson, and that $45,940 be reallocated from the 2019 sidewalk replacement project, and that $18,218 be reallocated from the sewer reserve. So concludes the report.
Thank you. And now I'll open the floor for questions. Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Yeah, I support most of it. To put a three-way stop at the corner of Westmount and Thompson, when you have a stop sign on Thompson and McMahon, and there's only 3 houses, so you're going to have a stop sign, 3 houses, and then another stop sign?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah. The reason we want to do that is because to have a crosswalk, it's best to put it at a location where a stop control is in place.
I just feel that if there's a stop sign there, and if there's a crosswalk there, people are going to look whereas if there's a stop sign there and somebody blows a stop sign, I think it could be more dangerous by having a stop sign there. Whereas people looking both ways without a stop sign there, because we have one 3 houses away. The cars aren't going to be going that quickly, I wouldn't think, in 3 houses, but they might be. But I just think the chances of somebody getting hurt by the stop sign there is just as bad.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Duran.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, through you, Mr. Mayor, I thought the same thing as Councillor Kenny, but, you know, I'll follow staff's lead. Sean, I just wanted to ask you a question. Obviously, were any traffic, like, do we have an idea of how many students are going to be going that way, or is there a feel for it, or is it we're trying to be safe? Because I'm on the road safety committee, so any safety features, I don't care about the cost, I will support.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the numbers that we've received from the school closing have varied significantly, but we're expecting there to be anywhere from 100 to 150 kids heading down that direction after the closure of that school.
And can we be flexible to revisit that? Because Councillor Kenny brought up some good points, so can we see how it goes? And
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's without question. We are going to watch it and make sure we know exactly what's happening so that we can make another recommendation if one is required.
So are you planning to have a crossing guard at McMahon and Thompson, and then also at Westmount and Thompson? Is that the plan, or?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. It would be at Thompson and McMahon.
Okay. So it'll just be a crosswalk, you're saying?
A crosswalk at that.
No crossing guard there? At the 3-way stop?
The 3-way stop, okay. Yeah. And only if the volumes were such that required us to have that crossing guard, we would look at it at that point.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Sorry, but I know the neighborhood pretty good. All the people that live on Parkdale there, and many of the people that live on Westmount are going to walk up Parkdale through that laneway between Parkdale and Stewart. So I think we might be talking maybe 15 houses, and we're going to add a stop sign there. I think we should really take a look at this because, like I say, there's an actual laneway, and if a parent has a child, they're probably going to tell their child to walk down the sidewalk through the laneway and up Stewart, and not cross at that intersection, because, like I say, it's going to be dangerous. And I don't know. Can we defer? Can we? I don't know. I don't know where to go here, but I don't think a sidewalk or a stop sign is good there.
Councillor, he said that they put it in, they're going to be monitoring and addressing it and looking at the numbers. They want to err on the side of safety, and that's why they've come up with this proposal. I think staff's put a lot of work into this. I went to the open house and talked with our engineering group at that meeting. So that's why I think that they're requesting it, but they're also cognizant of the fact that they're going to be monitoring it. Okay. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Just a quick question, Mr. Mayor, through you to the appropriate staff member. It shows it in a picture, but it doesn't have it in any words here. There'll be a sidewalk also included on Sullivan Avenue from Stewart to Collier?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. There's a missing piece there on the north side of Sullivan Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I had a mover, Councillor Sentence, and a seconder, I had a mover, Councillor Decker, and a seconder, Councillor Sentence. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. Notices of motion. So how are we proceeding here with that?
So I have, Mr. Mayor, two that were brought to my attention prior to the meeting, one from Councillor Kenny, I believe one from Councillor DeRose, and then of course Councillor Kenny had another that he looks to bring forward
So
this
all of
meeting.
them need the procedure waived.
Two of them for sure. I'm not sure if Councillor DeRose is looking to have his done tonight as well. So all three would require.
It's time sensitive.
So what we need to do is we need to address them one at a time, and then all of them will need a 2/3 vote to proceed, correct?
So I'd recommend you look at each issue, and council can determine whether or not they wish to waive the bylaw tonight to consider the matter tonight.
Okay, so we'll start with Councillor Kenny, because he's on my list first. Well, his first item, what is that?
Councillor Kenny, I have your first item related to the Lakeview Cemetery.
Then council will vote if we want to deal with it or not?
So under notice of motion, you can read what your motion would be about, and then if at that point you can move that we waive the procedural bylaw and suspend the rules in order to bring the consideration of that motion forward. If that passes with 2/3, then you can move the actual motion.
Okay, so I'll explain it first.
You can advise the topic as if you were providing a notice of
Okay,
motion.
I'm putting a motion forward, something that we dealt with a while ago and it has not happened. A trailer at some kind of structure at the cemetery. Right now we have 3 people working at the arena in an office with the 2 filing cabinets from the cemetery. Because of the work that's going on, there's a lot of jackhammering going on. You can't even hear yourself talk down there. And we have people in our community that have passed away, and they go to the cemetery right now, and there's a letter on the door saying, call a certain number, and then they're directed to go to the arena. This is unacceptable. A lot of the councillors have spoken in the past that we should have something at the cemetery. So I've drafted up a...
Okay, so before you bring the motion, I'll ask council if they want to waive the procedure bylaw, which require 2/3 of vote, and to bring forward the motion that he wants to bring forward. Okay? So I need a seconder for that. I got Councillor Neal. Okay, so we're going to vote on whether we're going to allow this tonight or whether we're going to ask that it come back as a notice of motion at the next meeting. So I need a 2/3 support, right? Correct, to bring the motion forward, right?
That's correct.
So this is to waive the procedure. That's all we're voting on right now. Waiving the procedure. All those in favor? Oh, I need a seconder for that, right? Did I get that?
I believe
Oh,
you
I
have
got
Kenny and Councillor Neal.
Yeah. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We got 2/3. Okay, Councillor, bring that forward.
So my motion would be that a trailer or small temporary office structure be placed on site at Lakeview Cemetery by August 19th to ensure that the staff are present and accessible during operating hours. The reason I said in my motion August 19th, apparently Curtis and Jeff are on vacation till the 15th, so that would give them a week to get it on site. I think it's needed on site, and like I said earlier, if somebody goes to the cemetery now, all they get is a note. I think it's, to say the least, Bush League, and it's not the way a city should operate.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll open that floor for discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I agree with that. We've talked about this many times, and at the worst possible time of your life, you don't want to go down to the conditions at the arena, which, you know, there's other construction going on causing that, but we've talked about this many times. There should be somebody there when you're going through one of the worst times of your life. So I will support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor DeRose, go ahead.
I agree 100% with Councillor Kenny and what Councillor Sentence said. I just had a quick question. I noticed in the plans of the presentation that was not going to happen tonight with the architect. I know that building has some asbestos issues, but they're talking about tearing it down. Is it not fixable at all? Can anybody on staff answer that? Like, I know, like, there's buildings that have asbestos, and there's ways to remediate that and fix it. So is it unfixable, the building that's there?
I can't answer that. I don't know if Sean can. I don't have that answer for you, but I hope staff does.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, unfortunately, I can't answer that question much better than the mayor.
Maybe someone down in staff that can get back to us in an email?
For sure.
Yeah, but I'll support this 100%. I think this is a necessity. This isn't a want. This is a need.
Thank you. I got Councillor Decker and then Councillor Long.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I echo the sentiments of Councillor Kenny and the rest of my fellow councillors. I also agree with Councillor DeRose about the building, and I also noticed there's no restroom on the architectural design, and I know we talked about this as well. So I think we need to look at that building and have a public restroom for when there's funerals going on or you're at the cemetery. So I agree that something should be brought back to keep that existing building, fix it, and we have to have some type of public restroom there. I know we've discussed it and everyone agreed with that as well. So I will support the motion as well, but I think we need a report also on the building and a restroom as well.
Thank you. Councillor Long, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the appropriate staff member, when I was speaking with Councillor Kenny today, we both recalled that there was supposed to be a trailer put out there. So I'm just wondering why it didn't happen. It's not like that we're asking for something extra here. This was supposed to be a requirement of the building being closed and a way to provide a service to the community. So I'm not sure if anybody here would know that answer, but I agree we need to get something out there to service the community.
And Sean, you can answer that, I'm sure. Okay. We'll get that answer though.
For sure.
Councillor Hanley, go ahead.
I agree with them 100%, and Councillor Longo is right. It was brought to the discussion before when we first talked about closing the mausoleum that we were going to put a temporary facility in place, because I remember the biggest concern of council was being business-like, and as Councillor Kenny said, it's Bush League what we're doing right now. My fear is that it's a long-term goal of the city to eliminate an office at the cemetery altogether. That's why the proposal's there to tear down the building. And I, as one, hopefully, I only got a couple months left. Who knows what will happen in October? But we need to address it long-term. My fear is by tearing down the building, or even speaking of such, is looking at eliminating actual person's presence at the cemetery. And I, for one, I can't see that happening. That's not how we should be running as a municipality. Councillor Kenton said it. Councillor Kenny said it. When people are mourning, we need someone on hand to be there to comfort them. Washroom facilities, And I hope that the direction the city isn't taken to eliminate that service that has been long-standing and still stands in most cemeteries across the Niagara Peninsula that I know of. So I support his motion 100%.
And that decision, Councillor Hanley, would be a decision of council. You know that.
Yes, I realize that, but
Yeah.
I have a fear that there's going to be a proposal coming to council to eliminate anybody being present at the cemetery in Thorold. I see that coming.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I got the motion. I had Councillor Neal as the second. Yeah. Okay, and do we have the link? Yeah. I'd like just to make sure everybody sees it before we vote on it. Everybody see that? And they're good with that? Okay. All those in favor? No, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I understand certain staff are on vacation. Can it be done sooner through people that are left in charge below them, or the CAO? Like, why do we have to wait till August 19th?
Well,
I understand that staff's getting back from holidays, but who's in charge when they're not here? Someone's got to be in charge.
So do you want to put August 19th or earlier if possible?
I'd say as early as possible.
Okay.
If everybody's in agreement.
Or early as possible.
Right.
Okay.
But at the latest, the 19th.
Yeah.
Thank you.
August 19th or earlier if possible. How's that sound? Or earlier if possible. Okay. So we have that change. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. Councillor Kenny, your second item was relating, I think everybody's aware, it was relating to the old, well, what will be the, yeah.
Yeah, so my motion would be that,
I don't want the motion, I
okay.
want just a general overview because we have
Okay.
to vote whether we're
I'm presently on the board of Thorold Nonprofit, and I know hopefully we're going to start a building shortly, and I just think that where that land is, be a great place for another build for a seniors complex. In no way am I asking for any favors from the city. It would be appraised at a fair market price and offered to them, and if they didn't want to buy it, that's fine. Move on. I'm not looking for any, like I say, favors.
Okay, so you're gonna, I need a seconder, correct? I got a seconder, Councillor Sentence, that we waive the procedural bylaw to bring a motion forward. All those in favor? What?
I think Councillor Hanley had his hand up.
Oh. Right.
No, I'll wait for the discussion point of it.
Okay, and do you want to speak, Councillor Long?
I don't know, are we allowed to speak on this, or do we have to vote on it first?
So any discussion on it would just be whether or not you wish to suspend the procedural bylaw and consider the item tonight.
Okay, then
Okay, so that's, we're only voting to suspend the rules. We're not voting on a motion which hasn't been put on the floor yet, okay? So the question is, we need a 2/3 vote to move forward, just, so we are voting to suspend the rules, correct? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, Councillor, you're up to bring your motion now.
That the city of Thorold will get the land of the present Fire Station 1 appraised and offer it to Thorold Nonprofit Housing at a fair market value.
Okay, we are. Just making sure we get this down for, and I need a seconder for that, Councillor Sentence. Staff? Okay, so now it's open for discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Hanley, and he'll get that motion up before we do anything. Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, one thing, we already have a policy, I believe, in place. We have a disposition of land policy within the city. And I do believe that it's technically illegal to offer the sale of land to one individual. We can't do that. We can offer the land for sale, but it has to be done in an open and public forum. And the property would then go to the highest bidder. We're not allowed to, as a municipality, to say, let's go get an appraisal. If the appraisal is 500 grand, say, okay, if the Thorold nonprofit organization wants to give us 500 grand, they get the property. You cannot do that. It can't happen, I believe. I'm correct. And we have a disposition of property policy already in place, and it has to be brought forward and allowed for open tender to the general public. Because I personally know of individuals who also wish to attain that building when and if it goes up for sale.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with what Councillor Hanley says. You know, what Councillor Kenny wants to do is noble, for sure. Everybody would like to see that, but we have a disposition of land policy. We need to follow it. You know, I don't know what the rush is. You know, maybe that's the way it'll go, and hopefully it does. But I think we have to we have to do it properly. So I don't think this is the proper way.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak on that? Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think the more seniors residents we can have in the downtown area would be perfect. But unfortunately, we do have that particular policy, as Councillor Longo had just mentioned. And I think the information should come from the nonprofit housing committee, or are you representing the committee itself and presenting this motion? Maybe a question to Councillor Kenny.
Okay, Councillor Kenny, do you want to answer his question from Councillor Neal?
No.
No, he's not representing.
And I think, as Councillor Longo mentioned, I think it's noble, and I'd love for us to have the nonprofit housing take over the property and build seniors' residences there. But we have a policy in place, and we put it in place for a reason. We could have the appraisal done and be market value appraisal. I'll just put 500,000 as somebody just mentioned, but maybe somebody else would give us $700,000, would be 200,000 above the market value. So we as a city must represent the community and not just a one specific organization. And I'd love for us to make sure that that does happen. But we do have policies in place for allowing land to be dispersed. And I think we have to wait for that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Sen.
So what we're saying is we're not allowed to do this. I think it's a great idea. I would love to do it, but what we're saying is we're not allowed to do this. So I don't want Councillor Kenny thinking anybody's against this. It's a great idea, but we can't do this the way it is, even if they're a non-for-profit organization.
Does the staff member want to speak regarding our disposition of property? There is a policy and procedure in place that we need to follow. Am I correct, Maria?
Through Mr. Mayor, yes. We do have a policy that speaks to the procedures that we follow for the sale of surplus properties. Normally you deem it surplus, and then it is generally a public process that's followed so that the city can attain the best value for the funds and for the property.
Okay, thank you. I thought maybe nonprofit was different, but I guess we shouldn't do this then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor.
There's a procedure in place. Council can simply have a vote and waive the procedural bylaw. That's all they have to do, okay? So, am I correct?
Well, I'll defer to the clerk.
So through the mayor, the bylaw's already been waived, so the motion has been put forward without having specific knowledge of what the policy says at present. I can't speak to whether or not the policy is currently against the motion and whether the motion would be against our particular policies. What I would recommend is that before we move forward anywhere is that we land on the wording of your current motion and what you're looking to achieve out of the motion that you can put on the floor at this point. And I would probably recommend that we ask for further information on the action to ensure what our policies specifically state, whether or not we can move forward with the particular direction. So seek further information from staff.
Okay, I can wait, but all I'm saying is council can waive a procedural bylaw by simply having a vote. So that's not a reason to hold this up. Just one other point, Councilor Neal mentioned, using around numbers 500,000, if the city could possibly sell it for 700,000 and gain 200,000. We have to remember, there's a lot of people in Thorold leaving the city of Thorold, okay, because they've got no place to live, okay? If we get fair market value, if that was 500 and somebody's offering 700, as far as I'm concerned, the city should take the 500 and take care of the people that have lived in this city for 60, 70, 80 years that are leaving the city, okay? I just talked to somebody 2 days ago. They've moved to Fawn Hill. Sorry, John, I can't wait. I'm 80 years old and I can't wait. So you know what? Sometimes you have to bite the bullet. If we're taking care of these people and we're going to lose $100,000 on a sale and build 60 units, that's what we have to do.
Okay, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Councillor, except to say that the project's a 2-year project. Do we need to deal with all this tonight until the clerk is able to get everything together and you can come back, I would say, next meeting? I think that the rush it's not time sensitive. The project is a 2-year project. We need time to make sure that everything's done correctly.
I agree. We can wait. I'll drop my motion. I just wanted to make a point. I will not be on the next council. I would like to deal with it in this council if we can, but
and I'll let the clerk address this.
So through the mayor, if you would like to leave it then as a notice of motion for the next meeting, we can bring forward a report to provide you with additional information on what we can do with the property and what our current policies say.
That's fair. Thank you very much, Matthew.
Okay, so that's where we're at. Is everybody good with that? Okay, so it's going to come back as a notice of motion to the next meeting. Work with the clerk. We'll have further information and put it together a report. Okay? You're good? Okay, do I need a motion for that? Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
I just have a notice of motion, since we're on notices of motion.
I got one before you, and then we'll get you up, Councillor.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It's been brought to my attention by numerous residents in the Tupper-Sullivan area. They're concerned now that St. Charles is closed and is going to be amalgamating with Monsignor Clancy, that there's going to be an influx of students walking that would normally take a bus to St. Charles, and they're very concerned of that area. I know I spoke to bylaw and planning earlier, and it was after Brock had closed, and their biggest concern is the traffic volume when Brock's in session. So to have this as a notice of motion put off till our September meeting is too late. So it's a time-sensitive thing, and once again, I'm on the Road Safety Committee. I teach at Clancy. The safety of the students is imperative to all of us. So my motion would read...
Well, wait, sorry. We have to waive the procedure?
Yep.
So you're, I have...
So I'm asking for a crossing guard at Tupper and Sullivan, basically.
I need a seconder to bring this notice, waive the procedure, Councillor Longo. Okay, so all we're doing now is waiving the procedure so that Councillor DeRose can bring forward a motion, okay? So all we're doing is voting to waive the procedure. We need a 2/3 to move forward, okay? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, Counselor, now you can bring your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, that a new crossing guard position be approved for the intersection of Tupper and Sullivan. And it could be someone moved from another location since the proximity of the school is different. So I think the resources are already in place. And that's what I'm asking for September 6th, the first day of school. Thank you.
So that's your motion. Do I need a seconder? Councillor Longo, are you seconding that? And you want to speak to it? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm not sure if the right staff members here, but will we have the opportunity to move crossing guards since St. Charles is closed? So is this
Jason,
an easy fix?
Jason, I'll leave that Jason to answer. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Longo, it's a difficult question to answer. I wouldn't be able to say it's an easy fix. Typically, when you want to relocate crossing guards or add or take away complements of crossing guards, there is a warrant study that would be done. Unfortunately, that warrant didn't make the budget for this year, but we were going to propose it again for future budgets. But it would involve traffic studies to warrant the need for the crossing guard. To simply relocate a crossing guard to another location without doing a warrant, there would be concerns that we may be taking a crossing guard from another location that may actually still be warranted. So I understand the desire, but I believe the proper way of doing it would be to conduct a warrant study.
Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you for that. But do we know if we are removing a crossing guard from the St. Charles school area?
Like the one in front of the school would be gone.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we did not intend to relocate that crossing guard. There is belief that that crossing guard was still warranted in that location based on traffic.
Okay, I guess I'll just make a comment. Again, I know we need to do warrants to make sure that they're required, but I would think a crossing guard where Councillor DeRose says we need one would be much more warranted than in front of a school that's closed down. But that's just my opinion.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor. Councillor Kenny made this point to me. We were discussing this earlier. The warrant study would probably cost more than hiring a new crossing guard. So I agree with what Councillor Longo said. I don't think you're going to need a crossing guard in front of St. Charles School. The school's closed. It's empty. So I not to disagree with staff, but I disagree with this position. I think we need one at Tupper and Sullivan. That's where the people are going to be congregating and walking. Over by St. Charles, there's no Brock students speeding through there. You go on Tupper. Sometimes I take that route to school. The speeding of Brock students, staff, whoever's going that way, is crazy. So I think it's necessary.
Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do realize that the St. Charles is closing, but we just want to bring to Council's attention that there may still be students that live on the other side of St. Charles School who will still need to cross in those locations to get to Monsignor Clancy. So that with that in mind, we didn't believe that it would be the right decision to relocate a crossing guard. If council decides to add to the complement, I just want council to be aware that we do have significant challenges in trying to recruit crossing guards currently. We are significantly staffed, but that's not a reason to try, I suppose.
Thank you. Councillor, I'll start with Councillor Decker, and then I'll go to Councillor Neal.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. There is another school in between St. Charles and Monsignor. There's Westmount School there too. So they could need the crossing guard for those children that go to that school. But I'm not saying that we don't need a crossing guard. We probably will. Could we not try to put somebody there at the beginning of the school year to see what to see what the traffic is like there, and if then we don't need the crossing guard, but I'm gonna say we probably will, because there's a lot of kids from Confed that go to St. Charles, so I'm sure it's gonna be a busy area. And we probably need to leave that other crossing guard there, because there is that school in between there that kids do go to as well. So we may have to look at getting a new crossing guard.
Okay. Councillor Neal.
Yes, maybe a question to Jason is that, as Nella just mentioned, there's two schools. One is closing, but the other one is still active. Is that guard at the St. Charles School, we have a month. Maybe asking the school itself how many students travel from that other side, both to St. Charles at the moment and to Westmount, within the next month. I'm sure the school board does have those figures that you could get, and as a result of that, then we could maybe make a decision in moving that guard over to where Councillor DeRose has asked for. And at the same time, I think we need to look at that particular corner, because I go that way quite often. 3 times a week I go out for my exercises, and I turn that corner every single day that I'm out there in that particular aspect, and a number of other days. And you have to stop and make sure that person isn't coming through that stop sign along Tupper, for sure. So I think we do need a crossing guard at that corner, but you'll need a study, I guess, to do it, to figure out that that's what is needed. But I think you have to take a look at both aspects of where the guard is now, and I think that we can move the guard, but that's, again, I'm not the expert in that. And putting a guard where Councillor DeRose wants to put one, it definitely should be, without even doing a warrant. So that's my position on it.
Thank you. Manoj, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I understand what Councillor DeRose is saying. From a safety standpoint, we should not compromise. And if this crossing guard that we are talking about replacing, if that is required as well, and we need additional ones, is council okay for us to, I know Jason has mentioned that we have tough time recruiting crossing guards, but if council is okay to hire additional crossing guards if that is required? Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Yeah, I'd support the crossing guard at without the survey or whatever. One question I do have though is, I know my grandson doesn't walk too far to school. Would the kids on the north side of St. Charles School, would they be bused, or are they going to be walking? Because I know that kids nowadays don't walk too far.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have an answer to that question at this time.
Well, we might want to check into that because, like I say, if they're on the north side of that St. Charles School in that area, down near the end of White Street or West Street, there's a good chance that they're going to be taking a bus to Clancy and not walking before we pay for a crossing guard there.
Thank you. Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Kenny, I think it used to be, I don't know what it is anymore, but it used to be if they were a kilometer away or a kilometer and a half, and if there was a sidewalk, there's criteria to busing and not busing. But I'm for hiring more crossing guards if we need them. Again, it was said earlier, if the safety needs it, then we should be doing it. Just my opinion.
Councillor DeRose, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to just bring something up out of the blue. If we don't, as Jason said, it's hard to find crossing guards. I'd be willing to do it for free for the first couple of weeks if my principal, I'm sure he'd let me leave at the end of the day and to be there in the morning. So just to let you know, that's how important I think this is. I would, if I was trained by staff, I would do it for free, just for the first couple of weeks. And someone from city staff come look at, without even a study, you can just observe visually. No, so I'm just saying, if you don't hire someone, or if you can't, due to,
I I think the idea here is to hire someone, well, if council approves it, to hire someone for there and work with the school board to address who's getting bused, who's not, and if there's any logistic changes.
Yeah, and I'd hate to take somebody's job, but I think that's all serious, though. I think this issue is, I've been contacted by over 25 parents, so for them to reach out to me, it's the biggest issue I've heard of lately, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on that? Okay, the motion. That a crossing guard position be approved for the intersection of Tupper and Sullivan. You're good with that, Councillor DeRosa? It's your motion, and who was seconding that? Did we have Councillor Longo or?
If it can be reallocated, save
Well-
taxpayers, but if it can't be, I'm sure Jason will let us know.
Jason's going to evaluate that.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. And Councillor Hanley, did you have a notice of motion for next meeting?
I wanted to put a notice of motion in regards to the disposition of station number 1, because I have individuals that have come forward, even a former mayor, and individuals that have interests in other ideas, what they would like to see occur with that building. So I'm putting a motion forward in regard to the disposition of station 1.
Okay, you'll work with the clerk on that? Through me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Now, closed meeting. Okay? Yeah. Well, that's Joanne should. Okay. Before we go into closed meeting, we're gonna have to clear the chambers, but before I ask to move it and get a seconder to go in closed session, I'd like to remind you of your obligations respecting closed session. Those who are participating electronically in the closed session must ensure that no other person is in the location from which they are taking part in the meeting, or make appropriate arrangements so that any other person cannot see or hear any of the confidential deliberations taking place. If this is not possible, you must withdraw from the meeting until it has been reconvened in open session. Do I have a mover and a seconder to go into closed session? I have a mover, Councillor Decker, and a seconder, Councillor Neal. Okay? And do you want to, should I read it and then they'll clear the chamber? Okay, I'll read this first before we clear the chamber. That council do now move into closed session for the purposes of receiving information of a confidential nature respecting a matter of legal advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege pursuant to Section 239 2F of the Municipal Act 2001, Rolling Meadows Phase 16, and a matter of legal advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege pursuant to Section 239 2F of the Municipal Act 2001, Mountain View Car Wash. Okay? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried, and now we'll clear the chambers for anybody that's